Merci beaucoup aux nombreux téléspectateurs qui nous suivent à cet instant. Nous sommes chez Congo Synthèse aujourd'hui, ce matin. C'est une fois de plus pour venir vous parler de la vaccination. On a déjà fait ça 2 fois, et 3 fois même, et cette fois-ci nous avons la chance d'avoir Dr Ogwe, qui est un GP, donc un médecin dans ce pays. Elle va beaucoup nous éclairer par rapport à la vaccination, pourquoi nous devons nous vacciner, et tous les sujets tabous, on va les évoquer aujourd'hui. Today topic will be why some Congolese people are reluctant to get the vaccine. Pourquoi certains Congolais sont très hésitants pour prendre le vaccin. Alors, moi c'est Barth Ngoma, comme vous savez, je suis le chef exécutif de Congolese Student Association. Et avec moi, j'ai des invités. Ils vont se présenter eux-mêmes. I will ask everyone here to present themselves, starting with Dr. Ogwe. Can you tell people who you are? Studio, I cannot hear people. Sorry to my invite because there is some technical problem. I can't hear you, doctor. 1 minute. Yes, can you hear me now? Everyone can hear me? Okay. Now I can hear Dr. Oge. We are starting with you. Can you present yourself before we move forward? Oh, okay. All right. There's some technical problem, doctor. Give us a minute again. So I will still address myself to those who are following us on the TV. As I said before, nous sommes ici sur le plateau de Congo Synthèse. Aujourd'hui, vraiment, c'est une journée très chargée pour nous parce que on va devoir parler de ces problèmes de vaccination qui ne cessent de faire couler l'encre dans notre communauté. Il y a des gens jusqu'aujourd'hui qui pensent que la vaccination n'est pas importante ou la vaccination c'est un danger. Alors, nous nous sommes dit, nous avons un travail en tant que leader, nous avons un travail, évidemment, nous ne serons jamais capables de convaincre tout le monde, mais c'est notre travail, contre vents et marées. Il y en a qui nous prennent à mal, mais on est obligé de continuer à faire en sorte que les messages puissent passer. C'est comme ça qu'aujourd'hui, on a fait appel à des leaders de la communauté, des gens comme Didier Ibuila, des gens comme Jacques Matensi de Birmingham, et sans oublier que cette fois-ci, nous avons la chance d'avoir un médecin parmi nous, ce que nous appelons généralement en Angleterre les GP, et nous avons comme GP aujourd'hui le docteur Ogre. Bientôt, si le studio est prêt, on va devoir leur passer la parole. En attendant, vous nous excusez parce que ce sont les caprices de la technologie. On n'y peut rien. Quand ça arrive, nothing can do when there are technical problems. So we have to wait a little bit until it's sorted out. But stay online, people. You'll be really impressed with the today discussion we'll be having with our invited this morning. Soon we'll be starting. So stay online. I know you start to be a lot as usually. Yes, I think now everything is sorted out. I will ask the doctor to try to present herself once more. Sorry about all this happening. Doctor? Hello. Yes, now it's perfect now, doctor. Go ahead, please. Fantastic. And
hello everyone, my name is Jacques Matesi. I'm the chair of the board of trustees of the African French speaking community support. We are based in Birmingham.
right. We are going to start our topic today. As I said, we'll be talking about the reason why some of our fellow Congolese, when I say Congolese with K, you know what it means. It's the former kingdom, because we not only Congo, we are with the other Congo, with Angola, with Gabon, with, as you know, so that's why we use K rather than C. So, straight away, our first question, we go to Dr. Oge. Dr. Oge, can you tell us the reason really why do you think people have to be vaccinated? And then from there, we will make some comments, and maybe later on we'll be discussing other topic around the vaccine. I leave it to you, Dr. Oge.
Thank you. Their COVID vaccination program for the last 18 months. Been doing lots of webinars like this, information sessions, just to spread information about the vaccine and the need for the vaccine and why we think it's so important and why there's been this major push to get people vaccinated. And I know there's been lots of questions, lots of concerns, and it was really important for me to get trusted healthcare professionals out to the community to have conversations like this. So I'm really happy to be here. So why is it important to get vaccinated? We have to think about how stressful the last 2.5 years has been globally for all of us. No one has been unaffected by this pandemic. And what's a pandemic? We have this novel coronavirus that affected humans and caused such awful severe disease, especially in the early phases. And if it wasn't a problem, if it was just a standard flu-like cold illness, especially in the beginning, we wouldn't have had a pandemic. They wouldn't have shut down the economy, shut down everything in a bid to try to contain it. As it happens, the way the virus is spread through respiratory droplets, it's spread very fast. And then we've also had variants over the last few years. So what we needed was science to come up with a solution, as well as them trying to do some of the public health measures, mask wearing, sanitization, washing hands. And we should do that anyway. That's general good infection control. So what happened was the science community had to come up with a solution, and governments all around the world poured billions, we'll say, so much resource. There was a political will, there was global will, there was an economic will to get a solution. And we vaccinated against infectious disease for hundreds of years. Think about it. We have vaccines against all sorts of infections. We don't see polio as much as we did. Measles, diphtheria, tetanus. So vaccination is something we've done against infectious disease for a long time. So vaccine was seen as something that we needed to develop really quickly in order to provide some of the solution towards this awful coronavirus that was wreaking such havoc everywhere. So all the companies, so many companies were doing tests and doing lots of research into trying to come up with the vaccine, because it was going to be a money ticket. Let's be clear. These big pharmaceutical companies are for profit, but they had a lot of investment put in them to come up with a solution because the world needed a solution. And as it was, we had several options. 3 vaccines, one vaccine, the first vaccine that was authorized was the Pfizer vaccine, so that's an American company, but they were working with a German company. So again, you had collaboration, you had resource, and when you put those things together, you come up with solutions. It shows what happens when people work together. So Pfizer was the first vaccine authorized. We gave our first jab in the UK outside of a trial in December 2020. And since then, we've had Pfizer, we had AstraZeneca, we had the Moderna vaccine, and since then, we've now given millions of vaccines in the UK and millions, even hundreds and hundreds of millions worldwide. So vaccination, alongside some of the other measures, has been a way out of this pandemic. We're not quite out of it yet, but coronavirus is not the problem it was 2.5 years ago. There's another spike in cases. You know, we're seeing half my staff were off a couple of weeks ago. I had it myself 3 weeks ago. It is a much milder infection at the moment due to two things. So the new variant we're seeing, which is Omicron, is milder, but it's changed because we've changed. We have been exposed to this vaccine over the last 2.5 years, which wasn't the case at the beginning of the pandemic. And a lot of us have been vaccinated. Majority of the population, adult population, over 18-year-olds in the UK are vaccinated. So yes, we still have pockets and areas where people haven't taken up the vaccine in the numbers we would hope for, but generally speaking, we are winning the war against this vaccine, against this virus, because of vaccination and also time and the fact that our immune systems have been exposed. So it's not as dangerous as it was right at the beginning. So my thing is about vaccination is really important because it's a really great scientific public health measure. It's one of the greatest public health measures in saving lives outside of sanitized water, you know, and flushing toilets. So it saves lives. We've seen it for generation after generation. This is just a new iteration of it. So that's basically some of what I wanted to say about vaccination and the success of the vaccination program in the UK in particular.
Thank you, Doctor. I wish, Jacques, if you can summarize in French or Lingala for our fellow Congolese to understand what just Doctor said before Didier come with another question to Doctor or a comment.
Bonjour tout le monde, vous tous qui nous suivez sur Facebook et d'autres médias sociaux. Ici, le docteur Audrey Ilozwe, elle travaille pour NHS, donc elle est GP comme nous le connaissons, donc docteur de famille depuis bientôt 10 ans. Elle a donné un brief, donc brièvement, elle a parlé autour de la COVID-19 2019 et elle a expliqué comment on a développé les vaccins contre cette maladie infectieuse. Elle a insisté sur le fait que la COVID était une pandémie, dans ce sens que cette pandémie a occasionné la fermeture de beaucoup de choses, de business, des aéroports. La vie a été paralysée à cause de cette maladie. Ainsi, il devait avoir une solution urgente pour contrecarrer l'expansion de cette maladie. C'est la raison pour laquelle il y a eu recherche pour trouver les vaccins. Et le docteur a insisté sur le fait que, auparavant, dans le passé, il y a eu déjà des vaccins qui ont combattu certaines maladies et toutes ces maladies sont très bien contrôlées, telles que la poliomyélite, les tétanos, ainsi que d'autres vaccins que les enfants prennent quand ils sont nés ou après 6 mois ou après 2 ans ou après 3 ans. Ce qui veut dire que les recherches sur les vaccins avaient déjà commencé depuis très longtemps. C'est ainsi que quand la COVID a commencé à faire des morts, à paralyser la vie sur toute l'étendue du monde, les gens ont investi, les gouvernements ont investi, les pharmaciens ont investi de l'argent pour en venir à une solution des vaccins. Et les premiers vaccins qui étaient mis sur la place publique ou qui étaient appliqués, c'était les Pfizer. Un vaccin développé par une compagnie américaine en collaboration avec les Allemands. Et ce premier vaccin a été administré ici en Angleterre également. En dehors des Pfizer, il y a AstraZeneca et d'autres vaccins. Donc, les gens se sont inspirés de la façon dont les premiers vaccins étaient mis en place. Avec tous ces éléments, c'est ce qui a permis que les 3 vaccins ou les 2 vaccins qui ont été administrés ici soient trouvés dans un temps vraiment record. Bon, maintenant, il y a la situation n'est pas encore écarté, les dangers sur le virus, sur la COVID n'est pas encore écarté à cause de cette nouvelle variante de Omicron. Donc cette variante continue toujours à infecter les gens et le nombre de gens qui sont infectés par la COVID maintenant commence à augmenter, bien que ce n'est pas vraiment très grave. Donc c'est autour de cela dont le docteur vient de parler. Merci.
Monsieur Didier? Monsieur Didier, votre micro, votre micro.
Thank you for the floor. What I can say before I go speaking in French, what I can say for those who just can who don't understand French, what I can say is, despite the fact there has been a big, huge effort from the medical or scientists to address the disease, the pandemic, we have had a lot of problems in terms of asking people to get the vaccine. And this is because there has been a conspiracy theory that was kind of pushed by fake news, put alongside the theory that the vaccine was, the disease itself was man-made to decrease the number of poor people, black people, and then so black people, poor people, especially people from Africa. So with this, it became difficult at the very beginning to ask people to get vaccinated. That was the main problem. Even until now, we are still struggling to explain to them that to get vaccine is better than not having it. That is the struggle we have, even though we don't have all the means to do a lot of work on the ground to make sure as many people as possible understand the importance of getting vaccinated. You can see many people who run entities or whatever. We don't have enough resources to address this on the ground because we are the one working with people at the grass root, but we don't have enough support. That theory is still around. People still think that the disease was unmade to decrease the number of people in the world. They think there are a lot of people they need to decrease. And then the first victim should be black people, especially those from Africa. So the conspiracy theory has had a big impact in terms of the number for the vaccine intake. That's what I could say in English. But now, if I have to speak in French or Lingala, comme vous le savez, Dr Ogué nous a expliqué pourquoi le vaccin est important. Elle nous a expliqué le processus qui a mené à la découverte des vaccins. Et que les travailleurs, les scientistes, les hommes de science, les grandes universités ont travaillé durement pour qu'on arrive à ces résultats. Mais ce que moi j'ai soulevé de ma part est que malgré les efforts des scientistes, ils n'ont pas dormi nuit et jour, ils ont fait le travail, mais on a rencontré une difficulté sur le terrain pour encourager les gens à avoir ces vaccins. Jusqu'aujourd'hui, il y a des gens qui n'ont pas eu ces vaccins parce qu'ils pensent que le vaccin a été fabriqué par l'homme pour diminuer la population mondiale et qu'on visait essentiellement les Noirs et une fois de plus les Noirs d'Afrique. Voilà la difficulté en général que les ONG ou même le gouvernement, différents gouvernements à travers le monde ont eu comme difficulté pour convaincre les gens à venir. Donc il y a eu ce qu'on appelle en anglais fake news qui ont découragé les gens. On amenait toujours des nouvelles qui montraient qu'on faisait ça effectivement pour tuer les gens. Et du coup, chacun a commencé à fabriquer ses propres médicaments. Et rappelez-vous, les gens ont pris les urines, les gens ont pris tout ce que vous savez, avec tous les dégâts collatéraux que vous pouvez imaginer. Ça, c'est ce que je peux apporter comme message. J'ai aussi soulevé que le travail sur le terrain n'a pas été facile parce qu'on n'a pas eu assez de moyens, assez de support pour organiser plusieurs séances de travail ou de rencontres ou d'explications de manière à encourager les gens à prendre ces vaccins. Je pense que c'est ce qu'il reste à faire. Si on travaille ensemble, on peut toujours voir dans quelle mesure on peut avoir ces supports ou ces soutiens de la part de plusieurs organisations qui peuvent aider à faciliter, n'est-ce pas, la campagne de vaccination.
Merci.
C'est ce que je pouvais donner.
Merci, M. Didier. Bien que tokotikela ye mingi alobaka na ngele parce que tobengisi pamba te biso totiaka mingi na monoko ya mboka ekozala malamu. Alors tokozongela we go back to Dr. Ogre regarding considering what just Didier said, what are your impressions about those fake news, about those theories of conspiracy? Have you come across in the past those kind of situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially near the beginning, we all got those WhatsApp messages, also those YouTube videos that had lots of experts, health professionals saying how dangerous it was, how dangerous the vaccines were. Especially people were very suspicious of the mRNA technology. So there was lots of fake news about how it can change your DNA. That is not biologically possible. Impossible. There was lots of fake news about 5G networks and how that's affecting things and, what the virus is about. And I agree, a pandemic is a really, really scary time. There's so much stuff flying around because it was so anxiety building. And there's lots of talk about all the fear, those pictures we saw from China, those pictures we saw from Italy of people, the morgues were overflowing of dead bodies just lying everywhere, of people really unwell. It was a really frightening time. It still is in many ways. So fear was used about the virus itself, where it came from, why it came about all of a sudden. But we've had coronaviruses before. So China and the East have had another type, a SARS-2 virus, that they were fighting quite a few years ago. So that's another reason why they were, in some ways, geared up for a pandemic. They were used to wearing masks. They understood about PPE. So there's lots of stories about where this virus came from. And I think the WHO, the World Health Organization, is still investigating it. Did it come from animals? Was it made in the lab? Either way, the virus came and it arrived. And we heard before about other viruses, the MERS virus, the first SARS-1 virus, that didn't really reach the UK shores, didn't really get to Africa. Whereas COVID-19, this SARS-2 was a different matter. It spread all around the world and affected all of us. So there was a problem. However that problem came about, yes, lots of conspiracy, but we needed a solution to that problem. But then I understand in the atmosphere of fear and anxiety and not knowing what was going on, it was and we're in the information age. We're not necessarily in the wisdom age. We're in the information age where our phones, are powerful tools. So we had lots of information coming to us and a lot of it was unverified, unresourced, unresearched. So people were sending stuff. And for me, it's always like check the source and think about the intention behind that information. And people said they did their research, but was that the WhatsApp videos? Was it YouTube? So there was lots of great information out there, but it was overwhelming the amount of stuff that was coming. And it can be hard as an individual to unpick what is right, what is scaremongering, what was straight out dangerously a lie, and a lot of the stuff that was spread was really harmful. Because what it meant, the facts are, and that's why it was really important for me to do this job, because I felt like we needed to be more visible as Black health professionals in speaking to ourselves. So I know I'm not Congolese, but I am Nigerian origin, even though I grew up in London. And it was important for us to be visible because the statistics and the facts were clear. Ethnic minorities were dying at higher rates. That's a fact.
Yeah.
The more deprived communities were dying at higher rates. So was there a conspiracy to kill off the poor? No, because the key workers, the people they needed going out to do those jobs, your bus drivers, your porters, your cleaners, your nurses, your carers. A large proportion of them were us. We were out in that front line with no protection, no PPE, no knowledge of what was going on, but still having to go out and make a living and look after families. So those are the facts. So ultimately, when then a solution came, however that solution came about, we have a reason to be suspicious because the system hasn't necessarily served us in the past. Think about Pfizer and I think about the meningitis vaccine trials they did in northern Nigeria, where a lot of harm. So they chose a select group and did tests without real scrutiny. Yes? So there's a reason to be suspicious. We heard about the Tuskegee trials in America, all sorts of awful things that has happened over the years. But this was a very different situation. This was a global problem. There was, remember, political and economic will to solve it because it kind of stopped everything, didn't it? So everyone wanted a solution. So they got the biggest companies, they poured money into it. And the people that were knocking down our doors in the GP surgeries, our hubs to get the vaccine, were the white population. You know, everybody, they were like, front, give it to me right now. And they know how to advocate for themselves. They know how to access healthcare in the way our communities don't yet know how to. So for me, it was really important to be out there to say, we are the ones dying from this. We are the ones that need to be actually at the front queue to get this vaccine and be protected. And then to have the right information to make that informed decision. What is informed choice? Really understanding the information and weighing up the pros and cons, and then making a decision that's in your best interest. So I'll stop there because I know you have to translate.
Yeah. Jacques, could you translate and add your own comment on that topic before we move to another subject where Didier will intervene again?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Olga, for your comments. So I'm going to translate in French. Comme la docteur était en train de faire des commentaires sur pourquoi les gens ne voulaient pas prendre les vaccins de la COVID. C'est beaucoup plus à cause des rumeurs qui circulaient sur les réseaux sociaux, Facebook, WhatsApp, selon lesquels que les vaccins a été mis en place pour éliminer, diminuer le nombre des Africains, le nombre des Noirs, et tout cela a causé beaucoup de peur, beaucoup de craintes, beaucoup d'hésitation du côté des Africains, surtout des Congolais, pour pouvoir accepter les vaccins. Donc, ce sont des commentaires que les gens faisaient pour pouvoir décourager les autres à ne pas prendre les vaccins, puisqu'il y a eu une certaine volonté politique et économique pour éradiquer cette maladie. Malheureusement, beaucoup de gens se sont fiés sur ces messages décourageants, en voyant comment les gens mouraient. Les gens ont laissé faire croire aux autres que non, voilà, vous qui acceptez les vaccins, après 2 ans, voilà ce qui va vous arriver. Vous allez mourir ou vous allez mourir demain. Et puis, il y a eu des cas de ratés, des gens qui ont succombé après avoir pris les vaccins. Mais le nombre de ces gens-là était vraiment très, très, très réduit, ce qui ne pouvait pas donner raison à ceux qui ne voulaient pas prendre le vaccin de venir le prendre. Donc, tous ces messages qui étaient diffusés sur les réseaux sociaux était fait de sorte que les gens soient découragés, les gens soient intimidés et qu'ils ne prennent pas les vaccins. Donc, cela n'était pas le cas puisque les vaccins étaient mis en place pour sauver des vies, pour éradiquer cette maladie, quand bien même que ça continue. Donc, c'est pourquoi nous allons toujours continuer à encourager ceux qui n'ont pas encore pris les vaccins de pouvoir se rendre chez leurs GP respectifs pour prendre ces vaccins. Merci.
Et ton propre commentaire là-dessus?
Oui, mon propre commentaire est tel que j'étais particulièrement impliqué dans cette campagne de la COVID et puis la campagne pour la vaccination. Nous avons connu des attaques, donc des gens qui ne voulaient pas de ce que nous disions, de ce que nous faisions pour que les gens viennent se faire vacciner. Moi-même, quand j'ai pris mon vaccin, j'ai diffusé l'image sur les réseaux sociaux pour que les gens ne me disent pas que non, voilà, toi tu encourages les autres, mais pourquoi pas toi-même? Donc, nous avons malheureusement connu les cas de certaines personnes qui étaient farouchement contre les vaccins, mais qui sont mortes à cause de la COVID. C'était très malheureux et puis c'était trop dur pour nous de voir les gens succomber de cette façon-là. Mais entre-temps, il y a aussi des gens qui avaient pris les vaccins et quelques temps après, ils ont commencé à sentir des douleurs et ces gens-là commençaient aussi à nous critiquer que non, voilà ce qui m'est arrivé à cause de tes conseils. Mais jusqu'à présent, tous ces gens-là qui m'ont critiqué sont vivants et sont bien portants. Et ces mêmes gens ont vu comment les autres ont dû succomber au sein de la communauté. Donc, ce que le docteur Ogué dit, c'est vraiment vrai que les gens étaient intimidés à cause de ces messages sur les réseaux sociaux, mais nous sommes venus avec aussi les nôtres, les professionnels de santé, comme docteur Ogué, pour informer, pour donner des informations, pour essayer de convaincre, pour même suppléer les gens de prendre les vaccins. Et ceux qui ont suivi aujourd'hui nous donnent raison. Donc, jusqu'à présent, il y a toujours des gens qui n'ont pas encore eu leur vaccin, qui sont encore hésitants, mais nous qui avons pris les vaccins, nous sommes toujours vivants, nous sommes bien portants, mais la maladie continue. Nous ne pourrons que les inviter aussi à prendre conscience et à pouvoir prendre leur vaccin.
Merci Jacques, merci. J'ajoute à ce que le docteur avait dit une petite phrase très importante, que quand ça a commencé, la vaccination, ce sont les Blancs qui se sont riés vers les GP, parce que eux, ils ont leur façon de voir les choses, ils ont leur lobbying, ils comprennent les choses peut-être différemment que nous, à cause de ces raisons-là culturelles dont on venait de parler tout à l'heure. Et ça, c'était très important. Pourquoi eux s'est précipité? Et elle a ajouté, mais si on élimine tous ces gens-là, qui vont devenir des domestiques? Qui vont nettoyer les maisons des gens? Et là, moi aussi, j'ajouterais, nous avons aussi nos propres frères et sœurs qui travaillent dans les hôpitaux. Moi-même, personnellement, j'ai ma fille. Alors, comment ma fille va accepter qu'on puisse nous éliminer, nous les Noirs, pendant qu'elle est là dans cette théorie-là des conspirations? Elle est là, elle assiste et puis elle nous laisse mourir. Ça, je voulais ajouter. Alors, Dr. Ogre, Jack just emphasis on what they just said about himself, because he took part in Birmingham, in general, because that's where he is, in that vaccination, thing when it started. And it was very hard within the community, because there were attacks on that. Nobody could understand, like he was pushing people to death. But at the end of the day, he's happy now because some people who didn't believe, they are not with us now. And another example is people who were vaccinated, who believed in his message. I even assisted to one of his workshop on TV as well. I was part of it. And some people who were vaccinated, they became sick. And they start to attack him. Why did you push us? Did you push us to go? But today, when we are speaking now, they are all alive. So for us, having you today, that's where he finished it. Having you today is a chance for us to have a professional. So maybe from your expertise, people can now start to, we can get other people on board. So doctor is completely right. That's where he finished it. I'll ask you a question, doctor. Sometime, even ourselves, who give advice to people to get vaccine, but sometimes we're confused because you get the 1, the 2 boost, another boost. So where are we going? Where are we ending with this? There will be another 6, another 7, another 8. So all our life now will be on the vaccine.
Yeah.
That's sometimes we have difficulty to respond to people when they ask us those kind of questions.
Absolutely. It's a great question. Like people joke about the loyalty guards, get 7, you get the 8 free type thing, you know, where are we going? So one thing I'll say in terms of, you just alluded to it, just to say, in terms of people getting the vaccine and feeling unwell, nothing is without side effects. So part of making an informed choice is weighing up the risk and the benefits. So even taking paracetamol or aspirin has side effects. So of course the vaccine, I can't 100% say, and some people did have very severe side effects, but we weigh it up with the number of people having severe effects from the virus infection itself. And on that balance, the vaccine is safer and effective than taking your chance with the virus, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. So that's not to say the vaccine is 100% safe, nothing is, but it is about weighing up the risk of the infection itself, which caused so much harm. And even with Omicron, which is thought to be milder, and it is generally milder from those who've been exposed to the virus before, but there are people in hospital today and they're unvaccinated if they're very unwell. We know that vaccine, it may not prevent you from getting COVID. I've been vaccinated 3 times and I got COVID 3 weeks ago, but it was hay fever symptoms. I thought it was hay fever. And it's because I was going into hospital, I did a test and found I was positive. So it was very mild. Whereas there are people, we know the vaccine prevents severe illness and hospitalization and death. And that's what we want. We want people alive. You have to be alive to fight another day. So that's what I would say. In terms of the booster, so yes, you had your first dose and your second dose, and that initially was thought to be fully vaccinated. We then recommended a booster campaign. And again, here in the UK, we are really blessed in that we have something called the Joint Committee for Vaccination and Immunization, the JVCI. They are a group of experts that look at all the information, all the research, and they're the ones that advise when we need extra doses, who needs the extra dose, should it be the whole population, should it just be the elderly, who's most at risk. They look at all the research from the UK and around the world, because different countries have done slightly different things. And what they found was, remember, coronavirus is changing and viruses change. The flu vaccine, the influenza, we give a flu shot every year, and it's a slightly different vaccine every year because we base it on the virus that's circulating each winter. So the same with coronavirus, it has changed from what we call the wild type. It went to, I think, was it the Kent variant, the UK one, then it went to Delta, then we're now in Omicron, and we're Omicron B4 and B5. It will continue to change. That's what viruses do. It's in their nature. The vaccine was still found to be very effective, even against the later variants. But they found that because all the vaccine does, it's stimulating your own immune system. It needs a functioning immune system. So it's stimulating your body to make antibodies. So if it comes across that virus, it can fight it stronger. So that's all it's doing. It's using your own body, what you already have. So that's why it's important to be healthy. And I'll go on to beyond the vaccine, other ways our community can stay healthy. So what the JVCI, what the experts showed was after 6 months, that antibody level went down. So even if you had natural infection or you had the vaccine, even though the antibody response, the vaccine was stronger than natural infection, because a lot of people said, I had it already, I don't need the vaccine. Having both was better than not being vaccinated. But that antibody level fell after about 6 months. So they had to make a judgment about boosting that immunity. And now we're going to go into autumn. So for the spring booster, which we've just had, it started in March, we were advised to vaccinate the elderly and the care home and those most at risk, people who don't have an immune system that's working properly. So it was a much smaller group. Not like I wasn't eligible for a 4th dose, so I didn't get it. Whereas I went and vaccinated my care home residents and my 75-year-old patients. Come September, it's going to be, I think they said over 65, but they've now widened it because of the spike we're seeing to over 50-year-olds, as well as people with a health condition, as well as care home residents. So similar to who we vaccinate for flu. So the reason why we've asked people to get boosters is because the evidence showed that antibodies dipped and getting another jab just brought it up and offered you more protection. especially with all the spikes in infection we're still seeing, because COVID is very much still around.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oge. Didier, can you please summarize what she said first, in few words, pona bato na biso bayoka, et puis yo moko obakisa suko ya yo commentaire, parce que lelo to ye mingi poto yoka ye, biso moko to sito lobby, to joape chance ya ko lobby sa ye mingi. Didier, à vous.
Merci mingi, papa.
Bongo wana nde ozongeli makambo alobi liboso. Wana ozongela Saint Maria makambo. Mais d'accord, à vous.
Yeah, doctor, actually, I wanted to ask a question before I try to summarize what you've been saying. There is a concern within our community. They're trying to ask, for those who are just one so far, do they have to go straight away to the booster, or they need to go through the same process, get the same process? Because you say things have changed in between. So what do you have to do now? For those who are just one jab, what do you have to do now? To go straight away to the booster, or they have to go through the second jab and then carry on with the booster?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the vaccine that we use for the first and the second is the same vaccine we're using for the booster. So there's what we call an evergreen offer. Even if you've never been vaccinated, at any point you can book a vaccine and get your first jab. Even if you only got one jab and it's been a year since you know that jab, you can book in and get your second jab at any time. And then after 3 months later, you can get your booster if you wish. So at any point, you can get any of the vaccines that you're ready to. And it's not a different vaccine. All it was is that we were using Pfizer, AstraZeneca in the first round, whereas right now there's more Moderna in the system. So I took my aunt to get her booster a month ago, and they only had Moderna vaccine available. So that's what's circulating. We don't really have AstraZeneca in the system anymore. It's mainly Pfizer and Moderna, and my recent experience is that there's more Moderna around than even Pfizer. So the actual vaccine itself hasn't changed. We wait to hear from the experts, the JVCI, whether it'll be a slight tweak. I know Moderna were working on tweaking to be more efficient against Moderna. But I think the research shows that the original vaccine we started using right at the beginning in December 2020 is still very effective at protecting us against severe illness, against Omicron. So that's what is still in use at this moment in time.
Didier.
Okay. Merci Bandeko. Nakubandira na iloko awutiko lubaya suka awa. Tout le monde a une question parce que votre belé bazui vaccin moko. Pour aux amis balé ba komi ko banga. Ko ko mi tout tout balé ko balé est-ce que vous allez ba OK na booster mbala moko il faut bazwa pe vaccin ni balé. A expliquer que ça est clair. Eza ya liboso eza ya mi balé eza mi sa ba booster wana nyonso. Ezali kaka vaccin ya ndenge moko ba ko pesa. Mais na liboso vaccin bazalaki kozwa ezalaki mingi tant bandaki awa tozwaki mingi vaccin oyo ya babengi ya Pfizer. Mais mikolo mingi vaccin bakoki kosala mingi oyo etikali bazosala mingi susu AstraZeneca te bazosala mingi kaka Moderna na Pfizer, surtout Moderna. Donc ata soki oye lelo ata soki ozwaki une année avant 6 mois avant 7 mois avant soki oye okozwa deuxième vaccin na yo ekozala Moderna ou bien Pfizer. Mais ceux qui ont besoin booster ou bien booster wana nde faut pesa kari ya 3 mois lisusu po ya kozwa wana po renforcer yango. Mais ndenge alobaki avant bamoni ke vraiment ezali na ba effet ebele oyo ezosala ke esunga bato parce que batu kala ezalaki mpasi soki ozwi yango maladi eyebanaki te ntango bapesa ba vaccin wana ekomaki mpasi. Mais lelo depuis badéveloppe bavaccin wana ekomi ebele na mokili ekomi ebele ya bachinois ya barusse ya baaméricain bamboka ebele basali bavaccin wana. Mais eloko essentiel alingi alobi ezali ke ils ont soutenir bateau, ils ont prévenir bateau. Vraiment que ceux qui ont eu en haut, ils ont exposé mingi. Pour batala qui balance. Nous sommes les balance. Ils ont dit que tala, par conséquence, ceux qui ont eu vaccin, là ceux qui ont eu vaccin. Par l'obité que ceux qui ont eu vaccin, nous y a expliqué. Par l'obité ceux qui ont eu vaccin, et vous avez la conséquence. Et l'autre, nous avons la conséquence. Ils ont aspirine, ils ont la paracétamol. Qui si nous avons qui oyo, ils ont effet secondaire. En anglais, side effect. Alors, ils ont dit que ceux qui ont eu qui ces effet secondaire, que vous avez le sous-souté. Ils ont dit que là, bénéfice ni ils ont aussi au biosité. Mais là, au salaire fièvre à moquer, nous avons qui si eux sont que aux autres qui sont au bas à fièvre mais au coup. On va nous expliquer. Mais c'est clair. Batala qui n'a ni au son abonné mais effet secondaire cause à la qui si pose à la qui si ni au son mais là. Quand on soit acquis dans la pharmacie, on a partout à commis, la papier il y a explication que effet secondaire cause à la ressenza, cause à la vertige, et cause à la constipation, ni au soit les années et l'Europe cause à la katiwa vaccin. Donc, à l'objet, la qui va faire en conséquence, la avantage, en monique, mais là où vous avez vaccin, na effet secondaire moyen ok, au lieu vous avez vaccin et puis effectivement, il y a mon lobby, à où t'es vous avez un go, à ceux qui déjà vaccin, à ceux il y a mis balai, à ceux boost même malgré ça, à ceux qui sont malades, à ceux qui sont Covid. Mais tant à ceux en go. Et bien, nous avons simple que ce que nous tanga, na moi solo boye à l'oboli, mais ils ont aussi maladie wana. Donc maladie wana donc Covid, ils ont changé air nous, c'est le virus. C'est ça même nature du virus. Air nous ont changé. Donc le médecin misal la parole comme il a, chaque fois ils ont changé, ils ont talisiko, n'est pas quoi modifier un vaccin wana pour s'adapter na dengue changement du virus wala salé pour que passe protéger biso. Tant que ça y a une variante sikawana il y a des autres mikolo donc chaque fois et tika quand on même pas il y a flou il y a pas high fever on appelle ça la mise en flou il y a pas flou on est en français en anglais donc quand même en anglais flou papa comment en français
bon tous les gars flou il y a moins flou tous les gars
Et ça,
grippe, voilà.
Flou et les grippes. En français, bon. Donc, nous avons une grippe. Chaque année, ça a un vaccin. Quand on a un vaccin, la grippe, voilà. Bon, quand ils ont un vaccin, ça a un chaque année, ça a une variation de la virus, ça a adapté pour écocana. Un virus échangé. Il y a un paix, la Covid et aussi la paix bon libéra. Notamment le vaccin Sika et on va nous arrêter parce que les modifications pour adapter au virus pour échanger. Il y a un résumé à Makabouya.
C'est la raison pour laquelle M. Didier et Zalike Tokena nini jab 1, jab 2, jab nini booster 1. Donc pour la nengo lobby wana parce que il faut pas continuer à attaquer nenge ayelisika.
Oui, bon bah antiba le vaccin tel T. Voilà les gars, c'est normal, virus a changé, a modifié. A se modifié donc il faut qu'il se fait et là donc c'est le coup là néo betamachi. Ceux qui entraîné à changer jeu, Yopé équipe qu'on faut changer pour attaquer. N'est pas changer jeu là-bas. Donc, vous aurez un dégon donc par contre changer.
Thank you Didier.
Modifier pour être efficace. Le changement est virus.
Thank you Didier. We don't want to abuse doctor's time. So Didier ou bien Jacques, vous avez une dernière question très importante. Au lieu que ce soit nous qui commentons en cause, on préfère elle. Une question très importante que peut-être je n'ai pas mentionné, qu'on n'a pas parcouru en passant, que vous voulez poser à docteur. Vous posez les deux questions à la fois s'il y en a. Comme ça, elle va terminer pour conclure pour lui laisser le temps de partir. S'il n'y en a pas, on va devoir passer la dernière parole à elle. À vous, Didier. Je commence par Didier.
Okay, Doctor, I'm going to bother you for the last time. Yeah, you're mute. Okay, I'm going to bother you for the last time.
Didier, sorry, Didier, before you move on, Doctor, how many minutes do you have really, so we can take on that?
Not too long. I'm supposed to be in another meeting, but it's important to be here, so maybe another 5 minutes.
All right then, okay. 5 to 10. Let's say 10 minutes, Doctor, maximum.
I'm going to be quick. Going to be quick.
Yeah.
Today, I want to just share with you our experience in the community. The problem is we don't have enough resources to support this kind of campaign. We have been struggling, to be honest. It has been a huge task for us, community leaders, to run this kind of campaign. But at the same time, there has been a lot of support to other organizations than others. So I don't want to, I think you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So the support has not been proportional. Even though we are the one working with people on the ground. So maybe if you have some links, some kind of conversation you have for us to get those support and then carry on the work, because it's a huge amount of what we're doing. Sometimes people doubting what we're doing. But we are doing sometimes without having the necessary support. That is just what I want to share with you.
Wait, Jack question, so you can just answer the last two questions. Jack, I leave it to you.
Just a quick question to find out. Of course, many messages were going through the social media, but why there was like a contradiction? Contradiction between researchers, especially doctors. Some asking people to get vaccinated, and other researchers, other doctors telling people that don't get vaccination. We can apply this formula, this medication, and people will get healed. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really good question. I'll address that question first and then the resource question. So I agree, there were lots of experts or so-called experts and doctors out there saying don't get vaccinated, and they've done this research. I always say, look, the consensus in terms of the vast majority of doctors got vaccinated and nurses. The vast majority of healthcare professionals did toe the general line, which was the vaccine is safe and effective and our best, most powerful research to find out people's outlook. And also, I would say the verified sources. Some people don't trust the government, I get that, but ultimately, they had a reason to try to get everyone back on their feet. They want the population healthy so that the economy can grow. So I'll always say to go for trusted sources, like the NHS websites, for instance, which gave really good information. And always back up information you're being given with that. And always check a little bit into the background of the people who are saying what they're saying. In terms of resources, yes, so much resource has been put into getting the vaccine. And I think someone said how we're really pushing people so hard. And I think it is a fair challenge because there's a lot of health inequalities and health challenges affecting our communities. Beyond the vaccine and some of the legacy work, we want to utilize the fact that community groups like yourself, like you said, have been doing the most amazing work at your own, of your own behest, just doing it out of your own goodness. And actually, the resource needs to be diverted to these grassroots organizations. Most councils have things like the community champions and community groups, and they have a list. So I'm really hoping you're plugged into that. Because beyond the vaccine, we really need to address some of the other health matters. For instance, cardiovascular disease, so blood pressure checks, diabetes screening, heart disease, prostate cancer screening, breast cancer screening, smear tests. On all these parameters, our communities have the lowest uptake. So it's not just about the vaccine. We have a lot of work to do in a lot of areas. So for me, the legacy, and there is a legacy organization in the London region, we want to make sure we're keeping in touch with groups like yourself in order to say, how do we divert resources to tackle some of these other areas? So vaccination is one, not just COVID, the flu vaccine, the childhood hymns, as well as the other conditions I've just mentioned. So important. We keep putting the message about people getting their checks done and utilizing and accessing healthcare in a way that makes sense for them. So we have learned in this COVID vaccine campaign that there are no hard to reach groups. We just haven't tried very hard as a system, a health system, to reach those groups in the past. And I'm hoping that there will be a shift. And one of the big lessons are we engage in doing that a lot more with groups like yourself.
So the last question, Doctor, can you explain to us what is the role of the community champion? Because in my community, there are not much people, applying for community champion. What are the role and what the advantage? Can you explain to us, please?
Of course. So there's been some really great schemes all around. In each council, they have a community champion scheme. And the idea of that is peer-to-peer support. So people, general ordinary people, are trained up in health information, and then they're the ones that then provide information to their community because they understand the cultural nuances, the language. They're embedded, like you said, doing the work, the grassroots work. So there's been resource to train up people who are interested to have that health information plugged into the systems, and then they're the ones that go out and do that support, and then they feed back what's needed. So there are community champions in every area, and we need to see everyone represented. So it's not just...
Are they employed or volunteers?
Volunteers. There's some paid roles, but generally volunteers, yeah. Okay. And you're right, actually, people also need to feed their families. So there needs to be scope to get paid roles. So in general practice, for instance, people don't realize we have roles called care coordinators and social prescribers. These are new roles that have been funded by NHS England to try to get out into the community. So to stop this divide between health and the rest of the community. And those roles, it's really important to try to recruit more of us into those roles.
Exactly.
Actually. But it's about us knowing that those roles exist. So, yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oga. We cannot keep you so long, but we hope next time when we need you, with what Didier said, hopefully we may have resources to continue doing what we do, because we have to pay the studio. It's a very big channel for the Congolese, so it costs a lot, and we have volunteers who come spend their time with us. So hopefully you can advocate for us, like Didier said. But so thank you very much once more, and
thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Didier and Jack, you can stay for a minute so we can close the debate. Thank you very much. Alors, bandeko, je crois tokomi na suka ya makamu na biso na ebite Monsieur Didier, soki oza liloba moko ya suka avant toleka na Papa Jacques. Didier, fungola micro na yo. Fungola micro na yo. Voilà. À vous, Prof Didier.
Sorry, Papa Bart. Est-ce qu'on va de la question parce qu'il y a eu...
Oui, je disais que tu comme na suka. Alors, liloba nini ya suka koko yebisa bandeko na biso na yebi ke ndenge tozaboye déjà. Beaucoup de gens, bazala ba un peu minoritaire, mais une minorité parfois elle est nuisible. Ceux qui babandi ko landela bino, pourquoi batoyo baya kaka tout ça, c'est que batoyo bazana masolope ya complicité ya ko bare biso. Alors, qu'est-ce que tu dis la place wana, parce que biso na bino tout le monde n'a pas ces sujets sensibles. Ce sont des sujets très sensibles.
Mais ceux qui battent, ça est bon pour faire. Je te dis quand même. Ni l'élection d'abord qui est au coup après. Pour lui voir le combattant attendre zéro accident ou bien pour la cause de il a bon monté tout ça pour ça pour tout nous avons le côté ça la bureau là ben il a peut-être bureau de ce là moi volontaire on ça on va pour publier ça là Elmo soki au lamu eleki ba suspecte pe bolamu elmo
Ouais.
le mouton ndeni na kola za batanga aya sala ni
Ouais, les banga.
donc ba comment suspecter bolamu na yo alors ndima ba suspecter bolamu na yo tango yebike o sala na mutema moko pour lancer ça o do sala za mingi o ba ndeko ba za bien pour to yebike so je vaccin pour protéger.
Merci.
Nga na zoli vaccin na poko na sali fièvre na makasi. Pour eza mopaya na nzoto na yo mopaya akoti. Nzoto na biso ordinateur amekaka akoma lokola nzoto ne jamais akokomisa bayele ya cerveau. Quand on mopaya akoti na nzoto, il faut cerveau ayeba nini ekoti. Et puis nini fatinda wa telemela eloko ekoti ya sika. C'est ça le cerveau.
Mais prof Didier, mais yo mon repère aux qui retard pour jouer vaccin voilà.
Oui, mais justement parce que nous avons eu depuis tout le alors, tu vas vendre des gens, tu sais, mais tu as l'amour que non. Petit n'a pas qui n'a pas de monde. Quand on dit qu'il y a un outil qu'on soit pour ni ce pays n'est pas à vendre. La vie, en tout cas, il faut la soir. La saline qui, la suie, en mettant la soie qui en haut, je ne m'étais pas préparé. Donc, vous avez moi, panique, mais la soie, ça fait longtemps. Le temps qu'on a soie qui n'a pas quoi, fièvre et saline. Ça, c'est vrai. Mais après fièvre, on a fatigue, et les cas en haut, et ça va side effect là, l'effet secondaire de nos baki. Nous avons le rapport en haut, il y a un déco. Vraiment, et c'est obligatoire. Mais nous autres, nous sommes malades, nous sommes bons malades. Et ceux qui ont coupé la Covid, et qui ont compliqué ça. Et ça dit vraiment choix à la biso, mais on a la malade. On a la malade. Ceux qui ont moyen, on a la vaccin. Il faut protéger. Et si vous avez la chance de son pour il y a souvent capacité. Déjà, c'est à maîtriser. Quand les amis vont boulot, mais je pense qu'il y a eu beaucoup de progrès.
Merci, prof Didier. Merci beaucoup. Alors, Papa Jacques, les grands leaders, les lots, n'arrêtent bien, mais nous avons la félicitation. Au lobby nini, pour la liloba, na ebi ke au lobby mingi makambo yo, mais loba kaka susu moi 2 minutes ya suka.
Non, papa, merci Mingi. La ligne juste de rappeler que c'est toujours important. Il y a qu'on reconnaître les bateaux pendant que les sont vivants. La ligne vraiment appelle ça, papa Ngoma, merci à trop pour le support, surtout pour l'aide. Par rapport à autres Zolobela, on peut ça exemple, il y a Bissomoko, African French Speaking Community Support. Tout ça qui funding. Il y a NHS North London. Tout ça dans studio dans Birmingham. Tout ça qui peut utiliser un bon wana awa. Mais mbongo wana tu utiliser ngo na Londres. Et puis en tête papa ngoma azalaki pour à diriger, c'est pas puisque ngana futa ki mbongo na futa ki mbongo te, mais puisque papa ngoma aza engagé dans ma communauté. Et mbongo wana nyonso tout utiliser ngo pour na bato à Londres. Bino moko boatema. Pour autant dire que tout ça makambo oyo est bon cœur. Les sujet gouvernement a encouragé bateau biso pe to lani makambo gouvernement. Et les lots, c'est une raison. On a besoin de vaccin, il y a besoin de vaccin, puisque le docteur Ogalobi, variante à Omicron, le nombre de cas est commis comme ça. On a besoin de vaccin et vous allez un peu, pas trop sérieux. Mais si vous avez vaccin, vous avez Omicron, vous avez un hôpital. Vous allez hospitaliser, situation peut dégénérer. Donc, biso, tu continuer pour le Belamakambo, juste pour la Bissomongo, juste pour la communauté, et que surtout moi le meilleur que cette singeli communauté est utilisée, tu peux communauté est utilisée. Bah on va kolinga, pour participer dans la biloko tout ça pour que va bénéficier, il y a moi funding au dozwaka, ça toujours les bienvenus. Mais bah ça toujours te que on a tout ça pour la bongo. Non, tout ça pour la bolamo puisque ils ont une opportunité et PSMI pour la bateau, le makambango, la makambango et puis bateau mususu va bénéficier. Alors longo nyamingi na bateau nyo surtout balanda biso ba puyaka biso ba mona keno o nyo surtout salaka na ba papa Didier na ba ndeko mususu OK eza pour na bénéfice na bango. Na PCP merci na ndeko Edi Matadi Yépé a participé à la projet. Vieux Ngadia Diangadios, merci à tous. Nous avons musiciens, nous surtout, nous avons studio, nous surtout, tu utilises qui. Vraiment, nous sommes toujours ensemble. Merci.
Voilà, nous sommes à la fin de notre émission. Merci à ceux qui vont tirer profit de ça. Na landi lo basuka on a clôturé nango ezali ce que M. Didier a dit. En venant ici, nous ne venons obliger personne d'aller se faire vacciner. Ça c'est vraiment, je tiens à insister sur ce que M. Didier a dit. C'est un conseil d'amis. Si quelqu'un pense que il est assez aguerri pour affronter ce virus, tant mieux, parce qu'on en connaît qui n'ont pas encore pris mais qui n'ont jamais été malades. C'est à vous de faire le choix. Mais par contre, ce que nous ne voulons pas, c'est de décourager des gens qui veulent aller prendre, parce que toi, peut-être tes anticorps sont suffisamment forts pour défendre ton corps, tu veux te comparer aux autres. Quelqu'un peut mourir parce que tu lui as dit de ne pas aller. Ta conscience, ça sera comment? Je crois que c'est par là que j'arrête cette émission en disant merci à Congo Synthèse, merci à M. Didier Ibouila, merci à M. Jacques Matince pour nous avoir assisté, pour avoir assisté la communauté congolaise par rapport à ces fléaux, par rapport à ces virus qui est en train de chercher à nous décimer. Merci studio. Bye bye.